how we play it the next week. Cool.
Good.
And let me bring up the links we were looking at last time.
Well, what I'd like to do today, just the only thing that I've got on my plate today would be to take you through the Let's Play game process.
Yes.
So that we've just got our heads on that, and you can see what the deal is. So can I switch to the screen share, and
sure.
We can deal with that. Take 10-15 minutes on that maybe, and then open agenda. Maybe we're done.
Well, let's see how your stomach holds up as well. So that's probably safe. But if you have to run out, just let me know if you think you're coming back or not. Otherwise, I'm happy to wait also for another 45 minutes or so. What was my password? Did you set that up or do I set that up? Oops, hello? Oh, you froze. In case you can still hear me.
Hope I'm back. Am I back?
Yes, now you're back.
Yeah, that was totally my end. My router died again. With what it did last week, which was really irritating. I hope it's nothing personal. It may be objecting to. Well, I don't know what it's doing. But
what seemed to have happened when you went on screen share?
Yes, when I switched to screen share, which I'm just about to do again. Let's see if I blow it this time. Picking up the screen share, I've got the options up. It's displaying them. I select. It doesn't seem to give any trouble at this point. And I share. And that should display.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
It is.
Do you remember which password I had for my LB1 and 2 and 3 accounts?
It was LEAN.
All right.
I'm going to close my display to reduce some of the stress on that. So you're seeing my screen.
Yep.
But that's all I got. And I've got two windows up here, one with your situation and one with mine, so that we can watch everything here. So let me know when you're in one.
I'm in there, yes.
Okay. Well, you can see that the dots have moved. There's some lines on the graphs now.
On your side, not so much on mine, no? Or is it? Or I've just not seen
Well,
that.
both of them. I'm looking at the right-hand graphic here for the game of LB1.
Yeah.
And down here, you've had income from building materials because somebody bought some building materials and you were the lucky seller. And that's advanced both your accounts positively. And then when you run your cursor over this side, you'll see that you can buy almost anything.
Yes. Should I do some purchases?
Yeah. Take any $400, i.e. the top in any sector that is permitted. Notice you can't do the 400 green, the 400 charitable at the moment.
All right.
But you can't do gardening. But you could do custom furniture, tailored suits, plumbing, anything. You can pick any one of those.
Oh, 400 altogether, local and federal.
Yeah. The idea is to be a desperate purchaser. You need to get the most. You've got a big family. You're trying to. You need a budget that meets the 400s. And of course, you won't find that budget because your income is variable. But the process of the game is see how many 4s you can get out of the 10 sections. So you pick one and you move to the top and hit the buy.
Yeah, I bought some custom furniture now.
Okay, so I will refresh this, and so you can see what's happened. I can see this now. Great. Notice you get a red line in your accounts, so it tells you what's come in and what's gone out.
Right.
But now, if you move your cursor, you'll find that you're stuck, right?
Yeah, I can't buy anything anymore.
Can't buy anything. Well, actually, you could spend at the supermarket in the bottom thing, but that would be a $100 deal, and that's irrelevant. Now, the reason for this is that your community money thing has gone way over to the red side, and the game places a limitation that prevents people from going into that red zone on the right-hand side of that that chart.
Right.
Now, if you back off to your access, and then pick the game LBG ABC.
Yeah.
And then pick the admin in the top left menu.
Top. Oh, do I have to choose LBG ABC and then hit play?
First, well, yeah, the game. That's right. No, it's in the access menu. You're in LBG, the game.
Yes, and then there's a whole lot of options coming down. Choose one of your games to play. Request to enter a game.
Don't want the access. Admin. Is there an admin in the left-hand top menu?
I on the top menu, I only see LB1 access profile lockout.
Okay, all right. So you must still be in LB1 then, I think.
Yes, I am. Yeah, should I?
Okay. Beg your pardon. Then. Yes, go to access.
Yeah.
And in the access, you can see the game LBG ABC. Top.
Yes.
Yes, that's the one. That's the game administration and observation. And from that, you can see the deposition of the system. And when you do the admin in the top left there.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm looking on my screen. Can you show me on your screen where the admin should be? Oh no, I don't have that. Oh, how do I switch to LBG? Oh, do I click on LB1?
Okay, I'll go back to the place. So I'm jumping too quickly. Okay. Go ahead. I'm in LB1.
Yeah.
And you can see in the top right, it shows me what I'm in.
Yeah.
The running count. When I select access here, I get the click on new game.
All right.
That's the point there where I'm showing.
Right. Excellent. Yes. Yes, now I see that. Okay, now I can go to admin.
And admin shows you the traffic.
Yes.
Now you can. What happens when you make a purchase, which you just did, right? Is that the the game selects a receiver, a seller. And on this occasion, your custom furniture was sold by MW3.
Yeah.
So I go to my page and I go into my access. And I can pick up MW3. And I see that I've had an income.
Yep.
Oh, that's no, I picked the wrong. I got too many of these accounts here. You see my access accounts on here. I'll show you again. I got a lot.
All right. There he is.
That's the one that I'm looking for. MW3 ABC. Now, you see, I started off buying an 18-speed bicycle and put myself in tight straits, but you've just brought something into me, so I have income. Look, I can do a tailored, right? I can't afford plumbing repairs. I could do tailored, custom thing. I'm going for the charitable. 400. I'm going to save my cash. All right?
Mm-hmm.
You see how my chart moves? And if I go back to the game space and refresh this one, I see that the money went to LB3.
All right. So I go.
So you log out from the game, which takes you back to where you can go to the access. And then you can select LP3.
Yeah. Dot ABC.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Oh, he's.
You're loaded.
Yes.
Loaded. So you might be able to do two 400s. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Tailor suit and some plumbing.
And you're still alive. You've still got stuff to play. Now it's all got to be 4s and.
Yeah. Looks good.
Yep. Two 400s. Great. Wonder where they went. So back out from LB3 and access the game. And on the game, again, you can see on the admin screen where the money went. LB2, right? Now, normally a player wouldn't have access necessarily to this screen and wouldn't be able to see where the money went.
Right.
So a player would just be spinning around LB1, LB2, LB3 to see if there was anything.
And on his account, I mean, it might have gone to somebody that he doesn't have access to, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter to them. I've given you this access so that you can see the whole show. You get the overview. But a typical player would be running 3 accounts, and maybe once a day they just log in, see if they had purchase space in any one of them. If they did, they make a purchase, jump to the next, try it, jump to the next, quit. A sort of a 2-minute flip to play what was possible and inject that transaction into the system so that it moved some other players forward. And that is the name of the game. It's just point and click.
So and if people get stuck, and because you said there is a moment where things get totally stuck, right? Or is that never? It really only is stuck for one player only.
It can get stuck for everybody. It's quite interesting. Now, part of that is the limitations on the game algorithm. It's a little inflexible, and it means that if people are playing casually and just hitting a few one-shot tricks, and this is very common in the main game, is that people will. In fact, I can show you this. I'll show you what happens here.
Because when we opened it last time, you said, "Oh, the game you're seeing now is stuck."
Yeah.
Which I didn't quite understand what that meant.
Well, you see that game that I've just brought on the screen?
Wait, why did this open here? Yes. Oh, destination. What am I doing here?
Yeah, quite a lot of action on there. And see if I get it in here. Yeah, here it is. I'm going to look at it from the game's perspective. Right, here's a bunch of players, right?
Oh, wow.
None of whom I know. They're all anonymous. I have no information about them, no access to them. And if one looks at the admin cycle on here, what you'll see is an awful lot of people doing small trades. You look on the right-hand columns. People join in and they do a $100 deal, a $100 deal. They do 2 or 3 of them. Yeah. And all that they've done is they've just sort of mushed the system, because a player who's taking it seriously might be trying, but their money is going into these dead players. Because most of these players I'll never see again.
Oh, right. Okay. So the money is still around, but the people just don't log in anymore.
And yeah, and it means that I'm still short of money, so I can't make a play. That's why I do set up these sort of games like LBG with a consistent group of players. And if everybody's playing, then it will not stick as a game. But what will happen is that this split of balances, positive and negative in the local, and above and below 200 in the federal, they will become very determinant of what possibilities are up for people. Progressively, the options to buy in different sections will become more inaccessible as the money is, particularly as the federal dollars distribute between rich and poor.
All right.
And that's really what the game is about, is demonstrating the different distributive patterns that happen in what I call a scarce money, the federal dollar, 200 each. It's just a distribution game in there. Whereas on the local dollar, it's much easier. You know, you've got breathing space. And it's from the eventual experience after people have played, say, 7 or 8 purchases in a particular account, they'll find the last 3 are difficult to make. Generally. Difficult to make a $400 ones. You can usually do a 200, you can certainly do a 100. But you can't get 4s all the way through very, very predictably.
And so this is, that then shows people that the split between federal and local on different product categories will eventually skew the game?
It's not that the shift we've just arbitrarily selected 10 items across a spectrum from 100% local for high value added service gifts, actions like that, down to the air ticket to LA, which is 90% hard. By sort of arbitrarily making that the game thing, touch all these bases, see if you can get a 400 at the 10%, 20, 30, 40% levels all the way through, you're just pressing how the money supply accommodates the community. And what will happen with the federal dollars is that some people will get rich. And because some people get rich, others are poor.
And those rich people also would, because it's arbitrary, kind of choose items with some local element to it, local dollar element to it, and thus the federal dollars will just always stick with them.
It's a tendency to, I mean, if somebody just stops playing with a high positive federal dollar, you know, and you see the cluster of 3 up there at the moment that are in the, let me just actually do it this way. I go to the federal dollar and I select the balances. I can sort on this table, you see. And we can see that LB2, 1, and 3 are holding positive values.
Yeah.
350, 300, 300, which leaves MW down below 200. Now, what happens when we have, say, 20 players in this, or 20 different accounts, is that about 30% will have more than $200. And 70% will have less than $200.
Right, and since they are, well, I mean, they could always go for the charitable donations only in local dollars, or no?
Yes, yeah, and that is the point. They will find that their four-star hits are likely in the upper level of that chart. They will get the ones that use a lot of local and a little federal are easier to get. It's the ones that require a lot of federal and a little local that demonstrate the squeeze. Throw me a couple more transactions. You're loaded. I want to see you bang off.
Yeah, I just did one here.
Uh-huh.
Oh, there I can. The deep freezer is still available. LB1 you said is loaded, no?
Yeah, that's what happens. Is that this? Oh, I'm making money. Look at this. M1, M3, M3 unloaded. So I'm going to go back to my system over here and do a couple of transactions. And one could see this game being played over maybe about 30 minutes in a group setting where all the players were just minding their own business and hitting the scores that they had. I'm going to get back into my playing space. Come on. Okay.
So the one thing that I can't have access here. The one thing that immediately reminds me of is some simulations that Will Ruddick in Kenya has recently done. Do you know him?
Yes, yeah, I looked at those. I thought it was a good start at trying to map out, but he was rather too. I mean, what he laid out was his structure in so many respects. He sort of posited a process and then implemented it and said, "Look," which is yeah, it's impressive, but. Well, I can buy a deep freezer here, so I'm buying the deep freezer. And I've got M3 is in there, so I jump out of that. Oh, look at that! I've got an excess. I'm loaded. I've got 660 federal dollars. So what I'll do, you see, is if I don't, oh, this is wrong. Oh, that's the local I'm loaded with. Yeah, I can still go up here. I'm just reading my own chart wrong. So I'll stay up in the high levels up here.
Yeah, here we go. Oh.
And I can still buy. I'm loading on here. That's good. Yeah, that's my best shot. So even now, the options that are showing up as available for me are all in the local money. I'm too tight on cash to be able to do anything. And this is, you see, the thing about this is more of an experimental simulation where there's no significant decision making by the players that affects what happens with the systemic outcomes. It's just the randomization, the interplay, and the bottlenecks that show up, and they define everything.
So did you play this with people that were about to set up a currency, or is it at a later stage helping them to kind of break those impasses? Or is it more a conceptual tool?
It's proved to be almost entirely a conceptual tool. We wrote this game in. Let's see what I'm at. I'm in one. Yeah, we wrote this game in the mid-'80s when we began to run into people's anxieties about balance in our roulette system. They didn't understand what was going on and why. So we introduced this game to try and explore that process. But we've had very little success in getting people into playing games. So for instance, doing this as a paper game, and there's a printout version, you do it in a room, and it takes about half an hour for 10 people or 20 people or 500 people to play a game on paper with Monopoly money as the federal, they mark the charts. It's more complicated process. It's more embedding in people's heads. But you've got to be able to get them in the room for half an hour to do it. You've got to get them in the room for an hour to explain how the game is played and why the game is played and all that. So you're really looking at something like a 2 to 3 hour meeting to play a game. And I can't raise that interest in my own community. So it's a question of when I go to another place to show them how to work, I will often use this game with an organizing group to educate and inform them. But generally speaking, they won't use it. And the online game has had very little traffic indeed. Because I think people jump at the game and they just do a couple of clicks and find nothing's happening and it's stuck and they get no feedback because the game hasn't got enough activity in it. So they look at it 2 days, 3 days, it's not moved, they quit. Go. Whereas the route I would prefer is sort of like a community gets interested in currencies, there's half a dozen of them, then they should play through this game so that they've got a grasp of some of the intrinsic dynamics of different money models. But getting people to play games is quite difficult, it seems.
And did you try to have a kind of a robot player who just unstuck stuck games so people, when they come next or even while they're playing, actually then get their balance back? Because in the end, I mean, the experience of people going there and seeing, oh, I can't buy anything anymore, I'm stuck, and then maybe not coming back for when somebody else might have bought some from them, that might be the where it dies. So if it was just a regular, an automated thing that, as a chess computer, kind of, you make your move, you don't have to wait much on the computer has been made, and you can again go. And in the end, you really only look at these tables to analyze what have happened, and a random robot player might be just as good as an actual person, you know?
Indeed so. And in fact, the robot player could be a very simple algorithm of choice, and so he could totally be as artificially intelligent as any other player. The coding necessary for that is out of my range.
Right.
The guy who coded this skin on Jeff Cheshire on the Regenerosity platform, he could do that. He's not interested in doing that, so it's happened. So actually what happens when I'm anxious to try and keep a game going is that I take out 4 or 5 accounts and I just become the sweeper and the pusher. I make sure he moves through it. And it can add up to a bit of support time. So the robot would be a hell of a lot better, and I'm sure one day we will do that.
It is. I mean, if you say you wrote this in the mid-'80s, then that part of the learning is really old, but it still puzzles people that in complementary currency, and that actually seems to go across the board. It doesn't matter which kind of system or kind of currency you're looking at, even time banks and even fiat time credit systems, and they all have the same issue that people are reluctant to actually spend. That and it seems that Stephanie Rearick, for example, in Madison, Wisconsin, kind of breaks that by just telling people that it does, actually just telling people that shortcut to learning thing, it doesn't work, and don't worry, this is not money. This is very different from money. It's not a debt. It's just a symbol of you having received. And they're very liberal with account limits on either participant or the timing organization itself. So they really doesn't have all that anxiety around it, maybe. But otherwise, even in the CCIA project, that was one of where many of the makers and the practitioners actually went like, how weird that across the board of all these different kinds of currencies that we had, that was one of the general feature or the general problems that they all faced.
Well, there's certainly a huge amount of confusion about how to gain experience. The real experience is that I trade in a currency and I get my bread or my beer or my haircut or whatever. I find comfort and support in using the money in my community's network. But that may take some months of one trade every 2 weeks. And the thing about a gaming process is if you can get people into it, they can experience components of the process in an hour much more frequently than they would in the real world, without any of the anxiety that, spending money in a real place or whatever. So I think games are extremely valuable. The difficulty is getting that value perceived by the potential players. But
and also, I mean, there's the next step, and it's probably hard to get to and then really monitor. But if people have caught a glimpse of that lesson from this online game, would they actually do something different in the real world? Does that actually translate? Is there this?
Yeah, it's the game's got to be legitimately indicative. It should demonstrate something that is actually real. I've seen some community currency games which demonstrate nothing of any reality at all. They're just story times of some sort, and significantly insignificant. So I think the game matches reality is a critical consideration. How closely it matches reality, how much facility it introduces. I generally think less is better, that the more people have decisions and choice points in a game, the more random and varied their behaviors are, which may be very interesting, but it may take away from what you're trying to communicate through the game. And with this game, we're trying to communicate that tight money gets scarce and competitive, where the open money gets free and fluid and productive. And
however, is that learning? Do people feel that tangibly because they're just stuck in general because the prices are fixed here and the ratios between local and not?
Yeah, they why are the prices fixed? When we fix the prices so that they're done, so you've got a simple matrix. You don't have to think about it, and that decision making isn't in there. It's just, can I make 4? Can I make 4? Can I make 4? Now, at the end of the game, and let's take a space with 20, 30 people in it, the village hall or whatever. Everybody's played, lots of vitality around, and then they want to know what happens. And you bring up these charts on the wall, and you start with a federal dollar chart, and you'll always be able to show that there's a few rich and a lot of poor. That is that's the Pareto distribution. That's that nothing is even, and as it gets uneven, the more rich, the more poor. And everybody is interested to know who is the rich guy who's shut down, who's holding the money. Everybody's extremely interested to know who's on the left hand of that federal chart. Because you can viscerally experience that guy is screwing us. That guy took the money and left town or whatever. He's the one who's poor. Then you shift to the other chart. Nobody gives a shit who is on the left-hand side. Everybody is worried about who's the big negative, who's being taken from the community. So, first of all, that's a fascinating result, because people throw into what can go wrong. That guy must be causing us the trouble. Now, at that point, I can introduce the fact that whereas the federal dollar guy is blocking by being rich and non-active, a community guy can be rich and non-active, and it doesn't matter a damn. Because everybody can just work around them. There's plenty of float, plenty of other connections. And so the transactions keep going between the 10 active players, and the 2 inactive players are irrelevant in the community money side. On the federal side, their inactivity screws everybody. Once we've established that difference, then I go back to what happens when the guy on the left chart, who's in the red, do you see those 2 dots out there at the moment? Let's see, who are they?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Right, those 2 dots out there, my God, are they screwing our community? What happens if one of them leaves town, falls under a bus, or just decides he's never going to play again? Now, in conventional experience, people say, oh, we are screwed. Our cooperative has been drained. Somebody is cheating. We are losing. He is screwing us up. Fact of the matter is, the negative that is inactive is no more different than the positive that is inactive, or the guy in the middle who is inactive. Inactivity in a community currency does not prohibit others from being active.
All right.
Now, those simple learnings can totally change how a group play. For instance, we get to that left-hand chart, and we'd be pointing out that the people on the left are in risk. If your chart is in the blue, or you're off on the left-hand side, you're holding positive local dollars, you may have nothing. You may have nothing, because who knows where the system will be tomorrow. Who knows who's reliable? There isn't a bank insurance thing. Community money is what it is, where it is, and you may find that you're in the positive and the system dies, in which case you've earned 50, 500 or whatever these dollars over time. Now you'll never be able to spend them. If that's a concern, never have positive dollars. Always operate in the negative. And that's, of course, the model that we take to our Community Way initiative, where we say businesses start in the negative, stay in the negative, are the underwriters of value for the community. So getting people clear about the distinctions between positive and negative in a mutual credit seems to be the big breaker. Because you can change how they feel and think if they actually see what it is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's, was it? I might also have gotten that actually from Stephanie at some point, that they just on their online system didn't express negative numbers anymore. They just had two bar graphs that played next to each other, but there was never a minus anyway to take that fear away. And the system that I built once in Brussels, we just had a, how do you call that? A scale, a two bowl scale, like the symbol of justice, that thing. And also just, well, there, of course, one side would be hanging lower than the other, but again, didn't say minus or something. That only had positive, like into the numbers onto these bowls. And bringing one side just means, okay, do something for the other side, but it wasn't expressed as plus and minus. But again,
and that introduces the idea that the money is a real thing, a positive design. So, and that's one of my concerns about the Bangla Pesa, is that I'm not quite clear what are the obligations of a participant in the Bangla Pesa.
I think really just to accept as much as they have received in the initial distribution.
Yeah, quite. So can they pay, can they bail out? Can they complete their obligation and bank back the money and say, I'm no longer in this? Yeah, right. There's a lot of questions about the Bangla Pesa that I think are fascinating. And I see a lot of opportunity in that initiative. But it's very primitive. And I don't think it's really worked out all the issues. And I will be proposing some upgrades to the Bangla Pesa over the next few months.
It's again, it was really, well, Will was on the ground there for so long that he really also just probably looked, and he had a national currency backed system before the EcoPesa, which very quickly came to a hold, and he was really just interested in something that would capture people's imagination and also gets used upfront. Long term is my opinion. Not the first concern there. Also thinking that, I mean, he had quite quick iterations with the EcoPesa coming to the Bangla Pesa, having quick iterations of disseminating that, and I guess the system that they just started in South Africa, from what I understand, they're a little bit different each time they do it. So there is also this opportunity for progress and evolution in the rules. And we probably took that into account from the beginning, saying, okay, it will change anyway. We don't have to worry so much about it now. I hope I'll manage to go down to South Africa in the maybe next year to have a closer look at that. More for my PhD will be more about South Africa not being a being a brick country, and thus being a bit further, or hopefully a bit more independent from the international monetary consensus, so to say. What they had in South Africa was quite interesting. That somebody from the Treasury right away came to the launch of it and was, first of all, didn't quite know what he got himself into, but when they explained to him, then he actually gave quite an enthusiastic speech at the launch event. And we'll see if that. Oh, is that Benevol? Hello, are you still there? Oh no! Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
Tedious. Sorry about that.
No worry.
Yeah, it's anyway. Obviously, I've got to find out what the hell's going on with my router, but I don't think I can blame Google for this or my computer. It's definitely my supply and ancient hardwares. So anyway, interesting issue for me to explore this sort of thing. I think it opens up a conversation that can be much more technically accurate when you have a descriptive analysis and a common language for depiction. From these graphics, I've been able to explain things to people that would be utterly impossible verbally, or have proved to be impossible verbally. Talk all you like, and if people's heads internally contain a different model, then you're talking, they're not hearing. So I have to get them into the same language of image, graph, understanding, and then the conversation will be real.
And this one learning point that you described earlier, where people looking at the federal dollars very clearly realize that the guys who have a lot and don't trade anymore are actually the ones blocking the game.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the opposite of the everyday on the street perception. If somebody has a lot of dollars and displays that, well, of course, by displaying that he has played and made some purchases, but often there's an assumption that behind every flashy car there's even more cash. And those people get praised, where in your game that quickly is identified as actually a problem, not a merit.
Yeah, it's the false illusion. It's like Gazelle talked about money not being the facilitator, it's the door, it's the block to the process. That the fact of somebody with wealth is not that they have potential. Yes, they do. It's that they're not exercising that potential. When I hold the money, when I'm stuck in retention, asset, fear, want until I get it. You know, the mix of our general economy is I will not provide a service until I know I'm going to get value for it. You know, give me the money, show me the money, the real money, right? That's the sort of the mind space that society works in. You'd be a mug to do something without getting hard, real money for it. So that makes an imperative to hold on to my asset and money, and it makes the store of value concept an impediment to the means of exchange.
Yeah.
And I think that is inescapable. I think that's an inevitable consequence of having any scarce money, is that holding on to it is better than spending it. And that's Gresham's law. You know, the bad money drives out the good. People will use the money that matters less and hold on to their gold coin or whatever and keep it under the bed. So money with value tends to create retentive behaviors amongst the parties and restricts exchange. And particularly when that money can be exported, that is, it may not just be somebody on the positive side with a static balance, but they may have taken their money and gone to the Bahamas or invested in Switzerland or something. And therefore that spending power is no longer accessible inside our community. So the simple scarce money model, money that is valuable, I think, has no solution. You know, Jam had a comment on Skype the other day to this Marco guy about whether the changes of the positive money group take the power to create away from the banks, have a good agency managing the credit issuance, and make sure it goes to good social investments. Well, those are all positive things, but they would not change the scarcity behavior of the money, the competitive context it creates, the poverty that's inherent in it. You know, it won't change. I mean, you'll change something. You'll have maybe a more honest economy, but it's still running on the same machinery, which is scarcity, deprivation, fear, greed, competition, exploitation, irresponsibility. Screw you, Jack.
On the other hand, that seems to also then, well, present at least a conundrum for a complementary currency approach to this thing by saying, well, of course, if we now have to create non-valuable money that is perceived as something very, lesser than the money that is already there, how are we ever going to introduce that and make that attractive to people who are not in dire need?
Yeah, very much. It's you don't want them throwing out the baby with the bathwater. There's Mark Twain said that the cat that sits on a hot stove will never do it again. Learn something, but it will never sit on a cold stove either. And people learn badly when they learn without clarity. And certainly, having pointed out to them that there are problems with money, the majority of people run like hell for no money. Take Charles Eisenstein, for instance, continually going on about gift exchange, give it, love it, serve, provide, without recognizing that there is a monetary process that will support that. It's a curious blind spot he seems to have, because he talks about mutual credit very effectively, but he doesn't seem to be able to integrate it with his bigger understanding. So he keeps following the Lewis Hyde line. You remember Lewis Hyde, the Gift, that book?
No.
He was an anthropologist who got into the nature of gift. Beautiful book. Picked it up in the airport at Heathrow a couple of years ago on paperback. The Gift. And he was taking the anthropology and showing how primitive communities had an internal structure of give and get, potlatch, circulation. They were sustainable within their process. And then you come in with a money from an external zone, you know, the traders, the fur traders, the British East India Company, whatever. And what happens is that you eviscerate that community with the money. The money is an imperialist tool in its way. So what Hyde came up with was money bad, community good. And basically Eisenstein dropped into that, and his attitude is quantification is negative. Can't have quantification, must do it from sheer love and gift and whatever. And, you know, one might applaud the ethic he's proposing, but not the practicality thereof. It's not going to work. Airlines will just not give you free seats on the grounds that one day somebody else will give them an airplane. Not going to happen. So unless one builds a process which supports the mutual service of a vital community, then you're still in struggle, compete, exploit, extract, suffer. That's the distinction that needs to be communicated and enacted so that we can have convivial monies that actually do support rather than just persist. So there you go. That's that. You've now seen probably 2/3 of our work.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, these, I mean, the individual points aren't new, but it's really interesting to have them so clearly demonstrated, and also that they are actually just not obvious points or something that people just run into, but that they actually are this thread throughout that whole field of research and practice, and thus actually are more severe. I mean, yeah, I'm actually now a little more concerned again on what kind of field I'm actually dedicating my energy and work into, and then that's really difficult projects to crack. And if you haven't, if people like you haven't, well, it didn't build up over the last 30 years to something that is more easier to work with. My God. All right, maybe just another 30 years.
I think it was all about delivery. It's all about how can you communicate and implement these ideas. And the last year, 6 months or so have basically opened up a lot more opportunities there, because our software has a very different propagation to it. And I think we're going to see, well, I'm looking to see a resurgence of the interest in these tools.
Right. Do you so maybe actually from, I mean, what kind of the one common property of the game you just showed me, and the thinking behind it and the learning from that, and well, I'm tempted to draw a line to blockchain technology and all this as just another way to actually just give transparency and accounting to social systems. I was actually surprised. On the weekend, I was at this festival. I met a colleague from the New Economics Foundation who told me that there's this MIT group, which is apparently now really powering the blockchain development and doing the core developments there. And they came to us, well, to them. I'm still saying us. It's been a month. They came to the New Economics Foundation to talk about what they are doing and what it could be and stuff. And he actually by himself said, I knew that article that this Leander guy wrote, that was an interesting thought, where I just said, well, actually, even calling it a cryptocurrency is completely misleading, because it's not more cryptic than anything we know at the moment, or more enclosed or more secure or anything. It's just actually the property that is really new and that is actually really promising, is that it makes everything transparent, that if everybody sees everybody's transactions, everybody has a full record of everything passed. You can put things into the open instead of finding governance and structures that keep things enclosed. So in a similar way, where your game shows, once people see the interaction, see the graphs, see the dots, once you have all this, then maybe there is a better chance of getting a system that is just informative instead of captivating.
It's we call this the flocking phenomenon, that what a person wants to know in a community currency, he wants to know where he is in the general field of what's going on. So if somebody can see 1,000 dots on a scatter graph that range between positives and negatives of say $2,000 or $3,000 and show trading volumes of 20,000, 30,000 or whatever, and they point their own dot at being somewhere inside the totality, then they know where they are. It's like the bird flying in a flock of birds. When it sees there's nothing to its left, it knows it's on the edge. And so the bird turns to the right because it doesn't want to be on the edge. The same with the fish in the school of fish. The one on the edge gets eaten. So they all want to keep turning inwards. And that's what creates the flocking effect. And what we find with this sort of concept is that people, once they know where they are, they feel secure. And it's all about themselves. It's not about the others. It's very interesting. The head trip is, what are other people doing? How can I trust other people? Trust. How do I know this is working? How can I be sure I will get? That's the head trip that we hear about blockchain all the time.
So that is, however, totally different in the conventional money system, where the people who are at the apex of it, they have the tendency to go further away from the masses, and they're quite happy and comfortable doing that.
Oh yeah, you know, in conventional money, security, secrecy, obstruction, obscurity, it's a wonderful way to play. Lie and deceive.
Well, which I assume is only possible in such an opaque system as the one we have at the moment, where nobody knows really, nobody knows how it works, nobody knows who deals with this, nobody knows well, nobody can place themselves on that map properly. You know you're poor if you don't have a lot of money, but there's also always enough people poorer than you, and not knowing how it actually works, you don't know what led to you being in that position. And not only the people at the top kind of have this feedback of what they were doing and how they got that money, and thus they can happily plow forward.
And the whole experience of the user in that world is, am I getting screwed? How much am I getting screwed? Nobody will tell me whether I'm getting screwed. I'm sure I'm getting screwed, etc. You know, that's the world that we sort of live in under an oppressive, exploitative process. But you go to this graph or this display of your community-led system or time bank or whatever it is, and you can detect your own behavior. And then the question is, am I getting what I want? Is my giving and getting in this cloud meeting my needs? And the answer comes not from what I get, it comes from what I give. It's about the valuation of this currency that is expressed in the service or product that I provide, and I'm acknowledged in the community money. And if the focus is in this money enables me to be a carpenter, a hairdresser, a retailer, a restaurant, if this enables my business to serve, then that is the economic act. The consequence is that the money moves around and I have customers. But I've got a credit which is a consequence of my product in this community. The blockchain world, the gimme get world, is all about I will not until I am promised. It's a withhold economy.
Well, is that blockchain, or is that just Bitcoin? I mean,
it's anything to do with a scarce money.
Yes, and that however is not. I mean, that's why this distinction between Bitcoin and clearly not saying blockchain instead of anything alluding to Bitcoin is quite important. Of course, you could implement any kind of currency on a blockchain. It really just blockchain is just a database. It's just a record keeper.
Indeed,
it does not presuppose any rules.
We're certainly going to be using blockchain components in the namespace. You see, in our system, if you recall, you've got a trading name and a currency, and you've got that paired association. You can use currency XYZ. That's there. And then somebody else who's got currency XYZ can send money to your trading account in XYZ. Ba-bum. That deployment of names and currencies, that we can blockchain. That's easy, and it's fast, and it will not slow the system down. Blockchain as a component of a payments model seems to be a deadly piece of time. You know, 40 minutes to clear some Bitcoin transactions and so on. So it's a question of where you put the cryptography and why.
Well, and also again, of course, what elements of features of money as you think you know it, you want to actually implement in something new. How much is that actually just perpetuating the same kind of thing? And there, Bitcoin was, I mean, it was quite a pleasant situation to be in for the last few years, where we were always the educated Bitcoin critics, just saying you don't even, well, where most of the Bitcoin discussions didn't even know what they were talking about, monetary or social technology terms. It was really just, it's very machistic, geeky kind of conversation. That
yeah, and I've seen that conversation disappear into its sort of technical holy grail, that people are so excited about the technology that they are stopping their consideration of the money itself. And
yes.
I wrote a piece about
it was an easy win. I mean, we were always invited to talk about Bitcoin because that's what journalists knew their audience wants to hear. And then we said, yes, I can give you one question on Bitcoin, and then I have a whole lot of other things to tell you. And sometimes it worked. Just so I have actually put something into this, I'm just posting that link to that article where I called it Mdilo currency instead of cryptocurrency. Maybe as a something to pick up from next time. Do you see the chat in the Hangout?
What's that?
Do you see the chat?
Oh, the chat in the Hangout. I'll bring it up. I suppressed my display because it kills my system, but I'll bring it up.
I can also put in the email that you sent.
The email's probably well. I'm here now. I'll be able to bring it up.
Now it's on both channels already. The email is on its way. I don't know. So that is one that was at least fun. Ooh, there's some weird noises now. Wow. I can't hear you talking. That sounds like an old synthesizer now. Uh-oh. I see you talking, but I can't hear you. It's really just it doesn't sound bad, but it's not structured in any intelligible way. Nope. Should I hang up again and try again? I saw that article already. If you still hear me, I don't know. Do you still hear me? Can you nod? I'll hang up and call again. Still the same noise. Yeah, I'll put it on my loudspeakers. Maybe you can hear it.